Dunwing was the widowed mother of Warbeak. She was also a sister to the mighty King Bull Sparrow. When her daughter was shot down by the arrow, she had given up her as dead. Now that she was back safe and sound, she stroked and scolded at the same time with relief. She could get a chirp in edgeways. Warbeak related the strange story to her mother with rapid Sparrow dialect. As she was doing this, Matias lay pinioned to the floor by the claws of many fierce sparrow warriors. As far as he could tell, the place was one enormous loft. There was a court of King Bull Sparrow, whose rest seemed to about descend upon him. The sparrows lived higgledy-piggledy here in one great untidy tribe. The roof above met in the shape of an upturned V, thus making the court a long triangular structure. Under the eaves on either edge of the countless scruffy-looking nests, all of which appeared to be filled with overflowing, shrieking baby sparrows. At one end, the loft was blocked off by roof slates and old nesting materials. This was the king's own private chamber. Matias estimated that it was probably underneath the weather vane where the weather vane was situated. King Bull Sparrow was not a bird to be trifled with. He noticed the young mouse's evident interest in his surroundings, and quickly diverted his attention with a savage kick at the helpless figure. "What a mouseworm want in court of king," he snapped. Matias, realizing it was no time for idle chit-chat, promptly shouted out in a loud, courtly manner, "O king, I come to return one of your brave young warriors." The statement caused an immediate hullabaloo. King Bull Sparrow flapped his wings once and quiet descended. He cocked his head to one side, assuming the bold young intruder. "You lie, mouseworm. Not help Sparrow. Mouse enemy," he shrieked. "King Bull Sparrow say killy enemy. Kill it." Instantly Matias found himself fighting for his life. The sparrow soldiers piled on him, jabbing and clawing and pecking. He managed to get a palfrey and struck out to the left and right, dealing hefty blows to several of the sparrows. Matias realized that he would soon be overwhelmed as more sparrows pressed on him, urging on by the mad exhortation of the king. "Kill it! Kill it! Kill it! Make Mouse dead! Kill it!" As Matias battled to free his other paw, he felt himself enveloped by two pairs of wings. Warbeak and Dunwing had attempted to shelter him. The mother sparrow was crying out, "No Keely! Mousey good! Save my egg, sparrow!" The king was not convinced. "Mouse enemy! Gotta make dead!" King Bull Sparrow had no fledglings of his own. Warbeak, who was his very fierce niece, called out to her uncle, appealing for mercy. "No, no, King Bull, no killy Matias Mouse. He save Warbeak. Give Sparrow word to Mouse that you no killy." The king sprang up in among his warriors, scattering them like chaff. They cowed before him as he shouted out a new edict. "Fool worms, stop! King say no killy Mouse. We have Sparrow word on sister's egg chick." The sparrow warriors backed up. Matias picked himself up. Luckily he had not come to much harm. He dusted his habit off. "Whew! Thank you once again, Warbeak. My friend, I owe you my life." The king issued orders to two sparrow warriors. "Battlehawk, Windplume, get a bag. Find out what Mouse carry." Matias stood firm as the haversack was pulled from his back. The two warriors could not figure out how to open it. They tore at the material with their beak and claw until it gave way. The contents scattered upon the floor. Matias stood respectfully to one side as the king rummaged through his meager possessions. King Bull drank some water from the canteen. He spat it out. "No worms, only mouse food." Warbeak sighed wistfully. He looked longingly at her uncle, found the package She looked longingly on as her uncle found the package of candy chestnuts and ripped it open. Bull Sparrow dubiously sampled one. His face lit up with pleasure. "This good food for King Sparrow King. No good for mouseworm. Me keep." He tucked the candy chestnut under his wing. Then he picked up the collar and lead and beckoned to Matias. "Mouseworm, come here. You lucky king let a live." The young mouse approached, and the sparrow, in trepidation, not wanting to antagonize the moody, dangerous bird. The Sparrow King buckled the collar tightly around Matias's neck, scarcely leaving him room to breathe. He attached the lead and laughed out loud. Doubtlessly the other sparrows laughed with him. Matias felt his blood boil. He tried to contain his rising temper. The court of King Sparrow was no place to have tantrums. Mentally he promised himself he would never again use a collar on any living creature. The indignity was unspeakable. Bull Sparrow handed a lead to Warbeak. Turning to his subjects, he chuckled insanely, pointing to Matias. King Bull Sparrow, spare Mouse. How you like him for pet, my niece, Mouse? You obey my sister in her egg check. Funny, ha! All the sparrows laughed long and loud, vying with each other to show the most merriment. The king was completely unpredictable tyrant. When he made a joke, it was always funny. Warbeak gave the lead a tug and whispered to his friend, Matias, you see Warbeak and mother not laugh, sorry. The young captive winked at his warder. He was beginning to hatch a plan. Don't worry, my friend, at least I'm alive. Warbeak handed the lead to his mother. This Dungwing, she mother. Good sparrow, no hurt mouse, see? Dungwing gave the lead a light pull. She gave Matias a smile and nod. He decided that he liked Dungwing's mother. The king issued his orders to Warbeak and Dungwing. You keep mouse worm on lead. No wander, no stray. Give plenty work. Much kick, like this. King Bull Sparrow raised to kick at Matias, who dodged nimbly and started to dance and sing like a silly expression on his face. The king stood in his head cocked to one side, amazed at the performance of the strange mouse. Matias pranced comically around, improvising a song as he went. Up higher than before, I near the roof indeed. The king gave me a collar, his sister holds the lead. Round and round he skipped, repeating the verse over and over. Bull Sparrow flopped his wings and laughed hysterically. Ha 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 ha! Look, Battlehawk, see Windplume? Mouseworm no be hurtin' head brain. He crazy. Ha 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 ha! Obediently, everyone laughed like a mad monarch. After a while, the sparrows drifted off, some to their nest, others to hunt worms. A chosen few went with King Bull Sparrow, played Three Feathers, a popular sparrow gambling game of which Bull Sparrow was very fond. Dungwing and her daughter led the dancing mouse off to the nest at the rear of the court under the farthest eave. Despite its outward untidy appearance, the nest was neat and cozy on the inside. Warbeak had gathered Matias' gear together. Repacking it into the torn haversack, she returned it to her mouse friend, eyeing him in an apprehensive manner. Matias be sick in head, she inquired. The young mouse lay back gratefully in Dungwing's nest and smiled reassuringly at the best. Not at all. I'm as sane as you are. However, if I'm as if I'm mad, then maybe your king and the warriors will not regard me as a threat. Perhaps they will leave me alone and forget about me. Dungwing looked up from the meal she was preparing. Her eyes were serious. Matias Mouse do right thing, she said. Bull Sparrow be wicked, bad temper. Sometimes Dungwing think Bull Sparrow mad. Besides, he thinks you no harm mouse. He thinks you no harm mouse. Matias bowed deferently to her. Thank you, Dungwing. You are a very brave sparrow. You put yourself and Warbeak in great peril, saving me as you did. Dungwing served them both some food. Thankfully, Matias noted that she refrained from putting worms and dead insects on his portion. The mother sparrow watched him with soft, intelligent eyes. The mouse was about the same age as her daughter. Matias saved my Warbeak, she says. We have no sparrow warriors to look after us. Warbeak brave like father was. Now father, he dead. I learned to stand up for us till Warbeak grow up to great warrior someday. The hours slipped by as the three conversed. Matias learned much of the sparrow customs and the way of life. Dungwing, being the king's sister, was of royal blood. Her husband had been killed the previous spring in a battle with some starlings. He saved the life of the king, whereupon Bull Sparrow had vowed to care for her and her daughter, but he had instantly forgotten his promise, leaving the pair to fend for themselves. Only in the moments of urgency would Dungwing remind him of his vow, knowing that Bull Sparrow was a dangerous despot. Now normally Dungwing maintained a diplomatic silence in his presence. Sometimes Bull Sparrow would retire to his private chamber. He would remain there brooding for days, suddenly emerging to fire his warriors with some grandiose schemes and wild ideas. No one dared disobey him, even though half an hour later he had forgotten his previous foolhardy notions and wandered off to hunt worms. Later he would return to find his plans had not been carried out. In a furious squabble of accusation and recrimination, he would demote officers and promote the most unlikely soldiers from the ranks. The next day he had forgotten it all again and was hatching more crazy plans. Matias was constantly amazed at the mode of life in the sparrow court. The sparrows showed no kindness or civility to one another, often fighting savagely among themselves on the slightest pretext. Warriors and even fledglings joined in. The injuries they inflicted upon each other were appalling. Sparrow folk knew nothing of fire maker's art. By day the court was illuminated by sunlight that streamed in through the crack and broken slates and slanted up through the eaves. All food was eaten or uncooked, small worms and small insects providing the main diet. The sparrow did not discriminate between different species of insect. They all came under the general heading of worm. Thus a sparrow might make a meal of butterfly and grasshopper and refer to it as worm feed. Worm was also used to denote an enemy or coward or anything alien to the sparrow. Fresh flowers and tender shoots of vegetarian was used to supplement the worm diet, also berries and whatever fruit a sparrow could carry in flight. Matias was grateful for this. He abhorred the idea of eating live worms or dead insects. There was no strict routine of chores ever carried out. Apart from the parents feeding fledglings, everything was left undone until tomorrow, which meant it was never done. The evidence of this lay around the court. Dirt, dust, filth, and general chaos prevailed. Matias gradually found that once he could keep pace with the steady delivery of sparrow language, it was relatively simple. Some of the sparrow chattered with such rapidly that Matias was sure they could never understand themselves. Matias was not sure whether Warbeak knew of his mission to bring back Martin's sword. Certainly Dungling did not. The young mouse had a good look around most of the court, but the sword was not to be seen. Matias reasoned that it must be in one place he had not yet explored, the private chamber of the king. He had thought long and hard about how he might obtain access to the royal apartment. He did not want to cause trouble for his friend, nor did he want them to suspect that what he could come for. And supposing he did not regain the sword, the next problem would be how to take it safely back down to the floor of the abbey in his own kind. Matias figured that he had been in his new surroundings for a day and a night. Towards the evening of that day, he was sitting outside the nest, repairing his torn haversack, taking stock of his own personal effects. Each time a sparrow passed by, he would grin vacantly and strike up his song. No one bothered to take much heed of him. Warbeak flew in from a lone worm hunt. She stood watching Matias. "Me hunt worms. Bring dandelions for Matias. Matias like eat flowers?" Matias replied in sparrow language. "Warbeak good hunter. Mouse like flowers. Make good worm food. Where be Dungling mother?" Warbeak pointed to the king's chamber. "Dungling get bull sparrow worm food ready. King have no wife to make food." Matias acted unconcerned. He pulled at the collar to loosen it. "Collar hurt mouse neck," he grinned. Warbeak struggled sympathetically. "King say you wear no take off, me sorry." Matias continued sorting through his belongings. He came across an unopened package. What a stroke of luck! It was candied chestnuts. Hastily he slipped them back into the haversack, hiding the nuts from Warbeak. Under normal circumstances, he would have gladly given them to his friend, but this was different. Matias needed them as bait. They continued gossiping until Dungling returned. After a decent interval, the young mouse spoke to her. "You go to king room all lot of time?" Dungling nodded. Only sparrow king bull let in there." She laughed. "He lazy sparrow. Not make own worm food." Matias shared her laughter. "Betcha king no good how to make his own worm food," he chuckled. "What you think, Dungling?" Matias found a gift for a king. The sparrow mother looked up sharply. "What mouse mean? Gift?" Matias drew close and whispered conspirately. "You remember how King Bull like mousy crazy nuts? Me find more. You take me. Me give nuts to king." Dungling looked doubtful. "What for mouse wanna give nuts to king?" Matias spread his paws as if to state the obvious. "So king let mouse a free. Wanna go back to mouse home." Matias felt his breath as watched Dungling. Finally her face softened. She smiled sympathetically. "All right, Matias, we try. No, not do harm. But member, not make bull sparrow bad temper. He kill sure." With an inward sigh of relief, Matias swept up the packet of nuts. "Thank you, Sparrow Mother," he said. "Mouse no make trouble for you. Nuts make king happy, you see." With Matias trailing behind her on his lead, Dunwing tapped on the slates which formed King Bull Sparrow's wall. A near voice came from within. "Fly away, Sparrow. King want to sleep." Dunwing realized they had chosen a bad moment. Nevertheless, she persisted, this time tapping harder. "Let in, King Brother. It Dunwing and Crazy Mouseworm. Got a gift for great king." A sleepy head poked around the door opening. Bull Sparrow blinked owlishly at them and yawned in their faces. "Better be portent, Majesty. No like to be woked," he grumbled. As they entered the room, Matias skipped about and sang his ditty. Whipping out the packet, he selected a nut and popped it straight into the open beak of the astonished ruler. "Mouseworm find more candy nuts for big King Sparrow," Matias giggled. "Fetch here quick. Maybe Mouse give King all the nuts. King let a mouse go home free." The king munched and chomped greedily at the sweet nut, eyeing the packet contentiously. "I, Mouseworm, give King all the nuts. Majesty Majesty have great things on mind. Me think about, let a mouse go free home." Matias campered about. He went down on one knee, offering the nuts. Bull Sparrow snatched the parcel. Hoggishly he stuffed far more of the nuts into his beak than he could cope with. Closing his eyes in ecstasy, he gobbled fiercely. Pieces of nuts falling from his beak littered his breast feathers. Matias' eyes roved about the chamber, searching. It was nothing special about Sparrow's habitation. A straw palaccy, some butterfly wings stuck to the wall by way of decoration. In one corner was a large overstuffed chair. How it got there would forever remain a mystery. Matias' attention was held by something that protruded out of the back of the chair. An old-fashioned-looking object made from black leather with lots of silver trimming, identical to the belt he was wearing. The scabbard of Martin's sword. Surely the sword must be somewhere close by. Matias wished he could see about the back of the chair to confirm his discovery, but he had to bring himself back to the issue at hand. King Bull Sparrow crammed the last candy chestnut into his beak and chomped it with evident enjoyment. Dunwing attempted press for justice. "King eat gift, now mouse go free." King held out a graspy claw. "More, Mouseworm got more candy nut for Majesty?" Matias remained kneeling. He appealed to the glutinous ruler. "O King, Mouse have no more candy nuts. Give all to Majesty. Now let Mouse go free home?" he asked hopefully. Bull Sparrow pecked nut morsel from his feathers, his eyes gleaming craftily. "Ah, now King give Sparrow word. I say if Mouseworm give more candy nuts, then go free. But I must give lot." The king spread his wings wide apart. "This many lot." The young mouse bowed his head. "But Majesty, me got no more nut." Unexpectedly, Bull Sparrow's mood changed for the worse. He crumpled the empty dock-leaf pack and hurled it into Matias's face. "Mouseworm, get more. More, you hear?" His eyes shone madly as his feathered hackles rose from his neck. "King not argue with Crazy Mouse. You get gone now. Plenty quick or me killy. Go now. Majesty sleep." Sensing that the king had become dangerous, Dunwing did not hesitate. She roughly dragged Mouse by the lead from the chamber. Matias sputtered with uncontrollable rage. "Dunwing, how you let a stupid oaf be king of Sparrow?" he choked. The mother sparrow shushed soothingly and dragged Matias off to the safety of her nest. Warbeak had gone off hunting again. Dunwing sat down and tried to reason with the angry young mouse. "Matias not let King Bull hear you say stupid oaf. You be dead worm bait much soon." Matias opened his mouth to protest. The sparrow silenced him with an upraised wing. "All birds know that King Bull mighty fighter. He saved Sparrow tribe many time from enemy. He sometime lazy, sometime bad temper, but not stupid. King Bull sly like fox, only to pretend to be stupid, just like Matias." Dunwing had guessed that Matias had gone to the king's chamber for other reasons than to gain his freedom. There was a very wise mother bird. He decided to put all of his cards on the table. "Dunwing, listen. I want to tell you a story," he said. "It is all about the mice who live in the abbey beneath us, and one mouse in particular called Merton the warrior." The sparrow listened intently as the young mouse unfolded the story of Redwall Abbey as the part he was playing in its hour of need. When Matias had finished his tale, Dungwing saw the truth in his open face. She drew close and said quietly, Matias, Dungwing knew. First day you come here, I see belt you wear. It all the same as thing behind in king's room. But why? Matias interjected. Again Dungwing silenced him. Young mouse, sit still, she said. Now me tell you a story. Many time ago, afore my mother was egg, king named Bloodfeather. He steal sword from North Point. Sword make sparrow folk proud. Brave warriors, strong egg check, much worm food to eat. Sword hang in court of sparrow. Bloodfeather die. Who know how? Bull sparrow become king. My husband Greytail tell me this 'fore he die. Bull sparrow wear a warrior sword. Case be too heavy. Leave case behind in room back a chair. Carry sword and claw feet. Big king he much show off. Dig worm with his sword. My husband go long with him. One day they hunt in mouthflower trees. Giant worm come, one with poison teeth. All the time says Asmodeus, like that. Bull sparrow drop a big sword. Even he's scared of poison teeth. Giant worm cold round swordy handle. Bull sparrow he order my husband Greytail to get sword back. Greytail try, but worm bite with poison teeth. He hurt bad. He fly back to court with Bull sparrow. They leave the sword in mossflower giant worm. My husband die. Bull sparrow say hurt in starling fight. Not true. Greytail tell me all 'fore he die. Warbeak still egg. Not know how father die. Matias watched sympathetically as Dungwing fought back her tears. Gently he patted the widowed sparrow. Greytail be mighty warrior to face poison teeth alone. You glad Warbeak be his egg chick. Dungwing smiled through tears. Matias be good mouse. They followed in embarrassed silence. Matias spoke her half aloud. So it seems my quest has been in vain. But what of the scabbard? Scabbard mean sword case? Dungwing inquired. Matias nodded. Me tell about sword case, Dungwing said bitterly. King Bull Sparrow be frightened to tell rest the sparrow that he lose Dungwing. Let he lose sword. He not know that Greytail tell me. But I watched King, Dungwing know. Bull Sparrow still pretend sword in case. That way he stay king. If I tell he kill me and Warbeak. This I know. Someday Warbeak my egg chick be queen. She have royal blood. Then sparrow folk be better, be happy. Bull Sparrow rule for now. Ha! Loose heart, loose sword. No good, crazy bird. Bull Sparrow. That night he settled down to sleep in Dungwing's nest. Matias had a good deal to reflect upon. So Bull Sparrow had lost the sword to a giant worm with poison teeth. Matias knew the description only fitted one thing, a snake. Poison probably meant it was an adder. He had never seen such an adder, nor any other type of snake. At Redwall he had been learned of snake as from the talk of others. They spoke of the adder as if the reptile was half legend, half nightmare. It was said that even the Father Abbot himself would falsely refuse to treat a snake, no matter how bad its condition might be. Luckily he had never been a cause to. There had never been a report of an adder in the area of Mossflower. That was why most creatures tended to treat it as if it was a mythical reptile. But wise elders like Constance and the abbot and old Methuselah assured everyone that the abbot was a cold, deadly fact. They said that in all the world there was nothing more feared, the strong coils, hypnotic eyes, and poison fangs. Matias shuddered. It sounded even more fearsome than Clooney the Scourge. How could a mere mouse-talk take the sword from the adder that Dungwing had described? That one said Asmodeus. Matias tried to put it from his mind. Gradually sleep overtook him. You come quick, Mouseworm. King want to see you. Rough claws seized Matias, dragging him from the nest only half awake. It was two sparrow warriors, Battlehawk and Windplume. They lugged Matias off without further explanation, tugging cruelly at his lead. The last thing he saw before he was pulled off into the darkness of the court were the pale, worried faces of Dungwing and Warbeak. He shouted to reassure them. Don't worry, I'll be all right. Take care of yourselves. Warbeak hit Matias in the face with a stiff bony wing. Mouseworm, shut beak or me killy. Not before I see your king, you won't, the young mouse retorted. Battlehawk aimed a kick at him, but Windplume deflected it. Leave mouse alone. You killy him, king killy us. Windplume grinned at Matias. Mouse cheeky, but brave like sparrow warrior. King Bull Sparrow had finished napping. Something was disturbing him about the captive mouse. He had been too busy guzzling candy chestnuts to let it bother him, but now that he was wide awake, it hit him like a ton of bricks. The mouseworm's belt. It had taken Dunwing a single glance to recognize it had finally dawned on the king. Matias's belt was the same as the big sword case behind his own chair. A broken piece of mirror reflected the moonlight, was the only illumination of the king's chamber. He dismissed his 2 warriors to wait outside. The king of sparrowfolk sat staring at the young mouse in silence. Matias stood his ground bravely, not knowing what to expect. Both sparrows stood up. He strutted about in front of Matias, then around behind him. Matias felt his belt gripped behind by strong claws. The crazed king whispered close to his ear, "Where Mouseworm get belt?" Mouseworm swallowed hard. He tried to act casual. "Belt? Oh, you mean this belt? Mouse always have belt for a many long time. Not know when mouse get." Thump! Matias hit the floor as the king shoved him fiercely in the back. "Mouse-like, king bull not worm food. Where are you to get? Tell." As he shouted madly, the sparrows pulled the belt. Matias now knew that he was facing death with the insane ruler in one of his lunatic rages. He must think fast. No, get more candy nuts," Matias cried. "Please, Majesty, give Mouse word. No more candy nuts. Me give Majesty great belt. Me give great king this belt. You let a mouse go free him." Matias's plea had the desired effect upon the mad king. He sat in the big chair, eyes glinting cunningly. "Sparrow laws say king must kill a mouseworm, but me, good Majesty, no killing. Give belt to king." Matias unbuckled the belt and handed it over. The king bull fondled it, then fastened it to him. As he admired the belt, he strutted in front of the broken mirror. The sparrow spoke in a normal voice. "Nice good belt. Mouse no great sword." Instantly Matias was on his guard. One wrong word might spell death for Dunwing and Warwick. He must affect ignorantly to allay the king's suspicion. "Oh, Majesty, that good belt make king look fine, like mighty warrior. No look so good on mouse." King Sparrow appeared flattered. He preened himself, then asked the question again, this time in a coaxing tone. "Surely Matias know of great sword." Despite the danger of his predicament, Matias was inwardly amused at the king's own use of his name. Slumping to the floor, he sat with his head between his paws, the picture of dejected innocence. "Oh, mighty king, mouse not have any more candy nuts. No, not no bout sword thing. Not even have belt now. Me die if me not soon go free. Please let us poor mouseworm goes home." Matias' show of pathos seemed to cheer the king. He tucked his wingtips into the belt that he had fooled the mouse into giving him. "Ha, he'd eaten all the mouse's nuts too." Feeling no end of a fine bird, he gave a sharp whistle that brought his 2 warriors on the double. "Look at this mouseworm. He no happy that I spare him. You take mouse back to Sister Dunwing. Tell her king say take care of mouseworm. He give me good gifts, candy nut belt. Maybe mouse find more gift for good Majesty who let live. Take way now. Must go more sleep go." As Matias was dragged off once again, he pretended to cry out in distress. This caused Bull Sparrow much amusement. He gave a wing in farewell, calling out to the prisoner, "Get a good sleep, mouseworm. Think away to get more gift for Majesty. Ha 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 ha." The two warriors and a nearby fledgling, who was half awake, laughed obediently with the king. Matias thanked for his lucky stars that he had been once more came out alive. He had refused to give the belt, he would have surely died. Anyhow, he reflected, it was only a temporary loan. As he planned to steal the scabbard from Bull Sparrow, why not belt to go with it? Basil Stag Hare and Jess Squirrel were as thick as thieves.